Have you ever wondered why we often suffer more in our minds than in reality? This thought-provoking question lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that originated in Greece, teaches us that our perceptions and reactions to life's events are the true sources of our suffering, not the events themselves. Imagine a world where external circumstances, events, even physical pain are seen as indifferent to our well-being. This is the world as viewed by the Stoics. They believe that the root of our suffering lies not in these external factors, but in our judgments, beliefs, and reactions to them. It is in our interpretation of these events where we find the seeds of our suffering. What if I told you that we often suffer more in our imagination than in reality? A statement attributed to the Stoic philosopher Seneca. This profound insight encapsulates the Stoic perspective on suffering. He proposed that our minds have a remarkable capacity to exaggerate potential threats, and that we often create a psychological burden for ourselves that is far heavier than the actual reality. The Stoics regarded the human mind as a powerful tool. Our imagination, while being a potent catalyst for creativity and problem-solving, can also become a source of unnecessary suffering if left unchecked. We envision potential hardships, replay distressing memories, and project ourselves into hypothetical scenarios, often losing touch with the present moment. This is where Stoicism provides a path to resilience. It teaches us to scrutinize our thoughts, challenge irrational beliefs, and adopt a mindset that aligns with the principles of virtue and reason. By doing so, we can mitigate the unnecessary suffering that stems from our mental projections. Another prominent Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, emphasized the importance of distinguishing between what is within our control and what is beyond it. By focusing our attention on aspects of life that we can influence, we can reduce the suffering we experience in our minds. In order to understand this concept better, let's delve into the origins of Stoic philosophy. And so our journey into the world of Stoicism begins, a world that offers us a fresh perspective on suffering and the tools to navigate it with grace and resilience. Stoic philosophy, originating in ancient Greece, contains valuable insights into human suffering. Stoicism, a school of Hellenistic philosophy, was founded in Athens by Zeno of Citium in the early 3rd century BC. Named after the Stoa Poikile, or the painted porch where Zeno taught, Stoicism quickly grew to become one of the most influential philosophical movements of the ancient world. The Stoics, including prominent figures like Seneca, Epictetus, and the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, devoted their lives to the pursuit of wisdom, virtue, and a deep understanding of the natural world. They believed that the key to a good and fulfilling life is the cultivation of an excellent mental state, which they referred to as eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or the good life. Stoics viewed the world as a rational, interconnected system guided by divine reason or logos. They held that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond to it. This belief forms the bedrock of their teachings on suffering and adversity. According to Stoicism, it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments and interpretations of these events. In the face of life's inevitable hardships and disappointments, the Stoics advocated for a form of emotional resilience grounded in the acceptance of the present moment. They taught that by cultivating an attitude of indifference towards things outside our control, we can maintain our tranquility and avoid unnecessary suffering. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of living in accordance with nature and reason. They believed that, by aligning our thoughts and actions with the fundamental principles of the universe, we can lead a life of virtue and contentment, irrespective of external circumstances. Stoicism, with its focus on inner strength, mental fortitude, and the power of perception, offers timeless wisdom for navigating the challenges of life. Its teachings continue to resonate today, providing practical guidance for those seeking tranquility, resilience, and a deeper understanding of the human condition. Now that we understand where Stoicism comes from, let's explore how it views suffering in detail. The Stoics had a unique perspective on suffering, focusing not on external events but on our reactions to them. At the heart of Stoicism is the understanding that adversity in its various forms is part of the human condition. However, it is not these external events or circumstances that cause us to suffer, but rather our judgments, beliefs, and reactions to them. Stoicism posits that our minds play a pivotal role in shaping our experience of suffering. Seneca, a renowned Stoic philosopher, once stated that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. This profound insight encapsulates the Stoic understanding of suffering and the role of our perceptions and mental constructs in it. So, what does it mean to suffer more in imagination than in reality? Seneca believed that our minds have a remarkable capacity to exaggerate potential threats, to catastrophize situations, and to create a psychological burden far heavier than the actual reality. Our minds, in their quest to defend us, often end up causing more harm than good. Imagine, for instance, you're facing a challenging situation at work. The Stoics would argue that the situation itself is indifferent to your well-being. It's your interpretation of the situation, the narrative that you construct around it, that causes you to suffer. You might start imagining all sorts of catastrophic outcomes, dwelling on past failures or fearing for your future. In doing so, you're suffering more in your imagination than you are in reality. The Stoics urge us to scrutinize our thoughts, to question the validity of our fears and anxieties, and to challenge the narratives we construct. By doing this, we can alleviate much of the unnecessary suffering that arises from our mental projections. It's important to remember that the Stoics didn't advocate for a life devoid of emotions or challenges. Instead, they proposed a way of life that embraces adversity, that acknowledges the role of our minds in shaping our experience, and that seeks to cultivate resilience and tranquility amidst life's inevitable challenges. Understanding this perspective on suffering, we now look at the role of imagination in Stoicism. Imagination, a potent tool for creativity, can also be a source of unnecessary suffering. In the realm of Stoicism, our imaginative capabilities hold a dual nature. They can either be a liberating force propelling us toward innovative solutions and fresh perspectives, or they can morph into a self-imposed prison, amplifying our fears and anxieties. At the heart of Stoicism lies the understanding that our perceptions color our experience of the world. We don't merely passively perceive reality, we actively interpret it. And it's this interpretation, fueled by our imagination, that often causes us more distress than the actual events themselves. It's like we're wearing a pair of imaginative spectacles, distorting reality and magnifying potential threats. Imagine you're about to give a speech, your heart pounds, your palms sweat as you anticipate a crowd of critical eyes. You envision stumbling over your words, forgetting your points, embarrassing yourself. The reality? You haven't even stepped on the stage yet. This is a classic example of how we suffer more in our imagination than in reality, a concept famously articulated by the Stoic philosopher Seneca. But what if we could adjust those imaginative spectacles, or even take them off entirely? What if we could harness the power of our imagination, not as a source of distress, but as a tool for tranquility? The Stoics offer a way. They advise us to examine our thoughts critically, to challenge our irrational fears and narratives. They urge us to recognize the difference between what is within our control, our thoughts, our reactions, our values, and what is not, external events, other people's opinions, the past, the future. By focusing on the former and accepting the latter, we can find inner peace. This is not about suppressing our imagination, but about directing it wisely. It's about using this powerful tool not to conjure up worst-case scenarios, but to solve problems, to cultivate empathy, to envision a life in line with our highest values. Now that we've understood the role of imagination, let's see how Stoicism suggests we manage this powerful tool. Stoicism offers a practical framework for mitigating the unnecessary suffering that stems from our mental projections. A key tenet of this philosophy is the cultivation of cognitive resilience, a mental toughness that allows us to weather life's storms with grace and equanimity. This resilience is not about denying or suppressing our emotions. Rather, it's about understanding them, challenging them, and ultimately reshaping them. It's about recognizing that our reactions and interpretations often cause more suffering than the events themselves. Stoicism urges us to focus on what's within our control, our thoughts, our beliefs, our reactions. Everything else, the external world, other people's actions, the passage of time, these are all beyond our control. They are indifferent. They have no inherent power to cause us suffering. The Stoics teach us to challenge irrational beliefs, to question the stories we tell ourselves, to ask, is this thought useful? Is it rational? Is it true? If not, we have the power to let it go. We have the power to rewrite the narrative. Yet, the path to cognitive resilience is not a passive one. It requires active engagement, constant vigilance, and a commitment to self-reflection. It's about recognizing when we're suffering more in our imagination than in reality. and choosing to bring our focus back to the present moment. Indeed, the Stoic perspective on suffering is not about achieving a state of perpetual happiness. It's about understanding that suffering is a part of life. It's about embracing adversity as a teacher, as an opportunity for growth. It's about finding tranquility amidst the chaos, not by avoiding the storm, but by learning to dance in the rain. In the end, the Stoic path to resilience is a journey, not a destination. It's a lifelong commitment to cultivating a rational, virtuous mindset. It's a commitment to living in accordance with nature, to embracing the ebb and flow of life. By embracing a Stoic mindset, we can lead a more resilient and tranquil existence, suffering less in our imaginations and more in touch with reality.